Hello, my name is Stefan,
Hello, I'm Isaiah.
and today we'll be discussing the history of buying Colombia, specifically talking about certain social circumstances around which allowed Colombia to rise and the rise of the suburbs, and also looking a lot at the financial history of Colombia City and how it has changed over time. So with Colombia, we were primarily looking at the prices of houses in 1970s, 1980s, seeing how that has changed now, and also how financing has changed from the 1970s and 80s to modern times.
So before the Great Depression, an overinvestment culture was quite vibrant in the United States. There was in fact so much overinvestment that economic success would quickly be replaced with economic devastation. A lot of the investment that was occurring was based on credit. The stock market crash of 1929 ruined the majority of investors. Furthermore, as a result of the war, nations were paying their reparations with war reparations that they themselves were receiving, causing unstable transactions between nations. American banks, of which the vast majority were not centralized, gave out loans based on credit. So when these loans fell through, banks began repossessing assets such as foreclosing houses that they could not resell. The banks couldn't liquidate their assets and thus had no actual cash. When depositors demanded their money, as economic uncertainty became apparent, the banks crashed. All of this contributed to the rise of the Great Depression. So since there was no buffer and economic collapse became imminent, economic theories and ideological became imminent. So economic theories and ideological opinions often shroud this event, but it is important to note that this resulted in the utter devastation of millions of people's lives that defined a whole generation. So the FHA. In 1934, the response to this Great Depression was the National Housing Act of 1934, which was created by the Federal Housing Administration, which created the Federal Housing Administration. The objective of the FHA was to stabilize loans and to generally increase home ownership. It made federal responsibility a key facet of the housing market. It was a harbinger of the idea of dramatic federal intervention to preserve economic security and to the birth of federally insured loans. This program also supervised mortgage terms, which were significantly short at first and gave lenders assurance.
So rise of the suburbs were a very important event in American history. So after the end of World War II, there was a lot of veterans who came home, and the country, as after it had recovered from the Great Depression due to the war, there was a lot of industry, which previously had been focused on military production and not at all on domestic production, because of course we were in the World War. So when all the veterans came back, there was very high demand for housing and this sort of American dream where everyone has their own house with a yard and their white picket fence. And as a result, the design of the suburbs was created to be a medium sort of so that everybody can have their own single family house, but also that way it's still affordable and there is enough space to provide houses for all of these veterans that came back. So while it was a compromise and it did solve many problems, it did create many other problems, which we still see to this day.
So now we're moving into the housing culture of the 1970s in Colombia. So this is the national housing median across the United States of America. And so as you can see, obviously the prices dramatically change as time goes on. And a lot of this resulted from dramatic inflation, but also from dramatic inflation. So Prospect Walk was a development that took place in the 70s. It specialized in colonial townhouses, and the development contained several models, as can be seen on the right. It was launched by the Artery Organization and was located in the neighborhood of Phelps Luck. Currently, many of the models still exist, but it has been absorbed into a general community that is no longer under the name of Prospect Walk. And as you can see, those are some of the sales extras and the sales features that would have been available within some of these houses. So the Ashton is one of these models, and it was approximately 1,844 square feet and had an original price of $21,490.70. So according to cumulative inflation, the Ashton would have been priced at $147,000 currently. However, many Ashton models are currently selling for close to $400,000. Drake is also another model that was built by the Artery organization. And it was approximately 1,289 square feet and was originally priced at around $24,000, which is approximately $166,000 when adjusted for inflation. However, many Colombian Drake models are currently selling for $300,000 or higher.